Okay, what's up, guys? My name is Damani. I'm a partner engineer at Google, which I think is just short for the person who speaks to the developers and the developers that don't want to speak to them. I work on Chrome, so typically talking about various aspects of AI. Right now, we're going to focus a little bit on the name of this talk, which is bringing the keys from DevTools to your coding agent. And I think this will be really cool for you guys. So hopefully we just jump through these slides, and I'd like to give you a quick rundown of what we can do in an IDE. So I'm going to skip over a bunch of these slides real quick because there's another section here that talks about AI assistance within Chrome DevTools. But I'd actually like to focus a little bit more about what we can do in terms of what you guys are probably more focused on, which is how does your agent actually access DevTools? Now, setting this up, first I want to mention that this is like completely AI agnostic. So this is not me here making a pitch for Gemini. In fact, I was told I don't work for Google right now, that I'm just a guy here talking about something that I thought was cool. So take that disclaimer. You can use this with Gemini. We also have Cursor, Claude, VS Code, and which is really just GitHub Copilot. And I can send out these slides afterwards to get you guys set up with using it. But I think the more important part here is like, what are we talking about and why is this actually useful for me? Well, I'm assuming as web developers, you've come across different aspects of something is broken in your app. You now have to go to the network panel, the console, sources, and figure out what's broken here, why is it broken, and then you probably go to Google to figure out what the error was talking about in the first place. And so the idea is how can we bring some of these aspects of help to you and also give you and the agent context that you're already working on. And so there's a bunch of different things that the MCP server is able to emulate for you. First, there's all these different aspects of like what you would actually do on the browser, from clicking to going to a page, waiting for something to finish rendering, or potentially even resolving in a promise. But then after that, there's also more debugging specific things that we enable for you, which is, all right, I'm loading this on an iPhone. Can you slow down this browser and tell me what that aspect of loading looks like when we're actually on a mobile device? Or can you give me all the console messages that came through as my app was loading and decipher for me like what's the error here and how to fix it? And again, this is AI agnostic, so you can use your agent of choice. If you feel like Claude is the best thing to solve your problem, go for it. If you think ChatGPT is, awesome. Like, we're not here to force you into any bucket. The idea is like, how can we get these agents the information that they need in order to get you to the solution that you're trying to get to, which is ultimately like get off of DevTools anyway. Like, I'm pretty sure you just want to see your app do the cool stuff you built it for. So there's some simple use cases here. I'm actually just gonna like jump through these real quick because I think it's cooler to just show you and we can see how it works. But just for the sake of like coverage and completion, these are some of the use cases that we can get into. For instance, can you load all of a desktop, mobile, and tablet and show me what my app looks like amongst all three of them? Then you can do something cool like put this in a file, like I want to send this to my boss, or maybe I am the boss and I need to see what they look like together. So how can I get them all viewed in the same viewport? Then we have more advanced use cases where if you're working with a team of engineers, you can say, how do we run this web app? Give me a performance run of this web app and then show me how this compares to a previous version after some edits that I've made, or how does this compare to a standard laptop versus an iPhone, and different things like this. So I'm gonna hop out of this for a second. And this is a Ruby app that I coded specifically for this event and function called the Body Shop. And I thought it was a fun play on body shop, but it's for boats. So I'm gonna show you quickly what we can do with this. Give me just a second here. Let me jump over to VS Code. And so I've got these various Ruby files here with a bunch of stuff that I need in order to get this web app working. but now I'd like to know, like, what can I do to improve this web app? And so we'll start with something simple just like that. And I'm just gonna use ChatGPT because it's the default here. But again, feel free to use whatever your heart's desire. So first thing we're gonna say is, can you give me a performance trace of this web app? And more importantly, can you put this in a report so I can view these metrics in a markdown file? Oh, 1 second. What's the Wi-Fi? I forgot to load this up. 29 Little West. Sweet. Okay. My bad. Technical difficulties. All right, let's rock. And so what you're going to see here is immediately it starts recognizing through the natural language commands that I'm giving it, it's supposed to query this MCP server in order to perform these tasks. If you're familiar with MCP, then you would already know that this is the way that it typically works. But the idea here is like, how can we get this MCP server to start to play along with any other agentic experiences that you have so that we can start to give the orchestrator, your coding assistant, more data in order to understand what it's supposed to do in order to make this web app better. So let's take a quick look at this performance report. Pop this open. Is this big enough? Cool. So it added all this context on its own. Like you can see here, all I said was, I'd like you to go to this page that I ran and do a quick performance trace on it, and let's see what it can come up with. So the first thing that it's doing is going through to tell you, like, what is some of the data that it actually found on load. It tells you what was the largest thing that it loaded, how long it took to load that thing, what are the potential render delays, load delays, and how much stuff shifted around on your web page as it was trying to load. If you have field data that you can plug into it, so if you have some sort of real user metrics provider, you can also plug that into here as well. And it can start to draw inferences from what it loaded in simulation and the context that you give it about how your app performs with actual users. It's also going to give you some insights as to what these metrics actually mean and then what you can start to do in order to fix it. Again, this is all what ChatGPT decided to put in this report. If you wanted to get real specific, you could tell it, like, I actually only care about this thing, so start to tell me what I can do to fix it. And we can actually give that a shot in a second here. But as you can see, it's giving me a list of all these things that is useful to me as the web developer that might help me figure out how can I make this web app more performant, how can I make this better for my users, or if there's something that's specific that feels like is just janky to me on my web app, then how can we improve that? So next thing I'm going to tell it is, you mentioned that the LCP could be improved. What are some recommendations that you have as it pertains to my code? And now what I'm going to do is start to give it some of the context that it is able to see on this page already. And so I don't think the cart is used here. That should be fine. We'll just go with these couple for now. Oops, not COD. So it starts to tell me some of the things that it sees when I first load, and we can flip over to the app. First thing it's telling me is like these images are areas where I could start to improve. And I didn't add specific height or width tags to them. But if I want to improve the way that the layout comes, then maybe I could go forward and do that. Let me go back up top a little bit. It says here that I can also optimize my image loading by using preload tags, which I think is just a standard like web developer trick of the trade. So some of this stuff might be redundant to the things that you're already doing, but I also think that's validation and confirmation to say, if you are doing these things well, then you won't see them here. And furthermore, if you do some update where you changed the version of your web app that you're creating, are you still following those same standards as you go into the next version of that? And same thing, like for my CSS, it says that I could probably preload this in order to make this a little faster. I'm calling 2 style sheets, it doesn't really like that. So maybe I could possibly consider not loading that one for this page or even condensing it down. Optimize the fonts, standard web recommendations. This app is pretty simple, so it's not gonna get too complicated as to what the changes I'm supposed to make are. But you can see as you give it more context about what you're supposed to narrow down on, it will start to get more intuitive about the recommendations that it's starting to give you. So I'm gonna try one of the other examples that I just gave you. I want to see how this web app loads in 3 views: desktop, mobile, and tablet. You can use an iPhone 13 for mobile and an iPad, that's not how you spell iPad, for tablet. And let's see if it starts to spin some stuff up again. So now you can see it's using the MCP server to change these renderings. The agent is smart enough to figure out what an iPhone 13 is supposed to be big enough, or like, sorry, the viewport for an iPhone 13 is, what the viewport size for iPad is. And so what it's doing is taking that context that it just discovered and then routing that to the MCP server to resize the page, take the screenshots, and then put them in a report so I can see them. Actually, I didn't tell it to put in a report in this case, so it probably just spits out in these image files what it's supposed to look like or what it thinks it looks like. So another thing that you can do here, as I mentioned before, was I really want to see how this app performs on a mobile device. Emulate a 3G network and throttle my CPU so it feels more realistic. Then reload the page and put it in a markdown file. And it starts to do the same thing. Find out in this case, we're gonna start to take advantage of the fact that it can emulate the network. You can also throttle your CPU either by half or by 4 times. And really all of these are just functions of what DevTools can do. It's just allowing you to interpret that as English such that you don't have to go write the actual test in order for it to do it. And once it gets the information that you need, then we can start to see, all right, what is the actual inference that we can draw from this. And same deal here, I'm not gonna go too deep into the performance trace as well, but I just wanted to show like, these are some of the things that are available to you. The last thing I wanna show is, so for Bodhi Shop, I did a V2 because I was feeling fancy and I wanted it to, actually don't look at this one. I think I might have messed up my route. Okay, I might not be able to use this example. Swing back to my home page. Ooh, I think DevTools started to mess up. That is so bad for live examples. Dude, this was my second one today, and I did so good on the first one. I was like, there's no way it'll mess up. I jinxed myself. Give me 1 second. Tell it, revert to the state v2 was working. All right, let's rock. Sure. This one is not DevTools MCP. This one is literally just GitHub Copilot doing its own thing. Anything that's MCP will tell you, yeah, that is called DevTools MCP in order to like get that inference or information. In fact, the list that I showed you before, these are basically all the things that it is able to do, and it will figure that out just from you telling it in English, like, this is what I want you to do. This one I haven't tried yet, but I want to try this fill form one. And then this will be the last one. I'm going to see if it works. Okay. Want to test if my form was working properly. Can you navigate to this URL and set the values as value, name as Damani, address as 123 Broadway, and the zip code as 11201. Take a screenshot of that page after you fill these values in and save it so I can see it. Okay. And as you can see, a lot of this is actually like mostly prompt engineering. Like you just need to be super specific about what you're trying to do, and then this is going to start to follow up and infer, is this what you want me to do? Is this the actual thing? And yes, it is the actual thing. So it looks like it failed filling in the address and the zip code. But this is actually one of the things that I think is useful for, because then you can see why. Is it a technical error, or is there something wrong that prevented it from being able to access that field? Give me 1 second, let me close this editor. And that's pretty much it. Like, I can't see the rest of this page because I didn't tell it to take the rest of the page, so it just took the viewport that I could see. Again, this is where you have to be super verbose with it to tell it, like, I actually want you to take screenshots of all the things that you can see on the page, including the elements beneath it. But the reason why I wanted to show this and highlight this for you guys is because I think there's some value in how we can start to automate testing, debugging, and really access it through the tools that we're already using. And hopefully this makes your development life much faster, much easier. And that's it, that's all I got. Thank you for listening.